England winning the toss. The first ball was hammered for 4 through the covers by Zach Crawley. Made a very good 61. He got the best ball of the day from Boland. Brook made a nice 32. Pope 31. Bairstow an excellent 78. At his bristling best, back in the England side again. He put on 121 with Joe Root, who made his 30th 100. He was 118 not out when Ben Stokes declared with about 20 minutes or so to go. They bowled 4 overs, 393 for 8, something you just don't see in Test cricket. It really was a brave declaration, adventurous, giving Australia 4 overs to bat, but they survived them, and relatively comfortably too, actually. 4 overs, 14 for no wicket. So they're 379 runs behind. Lots to talk about with Michael Vaughan. I was just saying on commentary, Michael, a lot of people around here watch a lot of cricket, but my word, they were watching grip that last 20 minutes there. That declaration and those 4 overs. You just don't see passages of play like that.
No, I guess that has been a day of Test match cricket where I think we've all kind of watched all day, and we feel like we've watched probably 3 or 4. There seems to have been so much happening from the first ball. Few drop catches, some brilliant bowling, magnificent off spin, an incredible 100 by Joe Root, England's greatest in my opinion. Just produced a masterclass of how to play under pressure, then produced flair, the reverse sweep shots that he plays for 6. Well, it's just remarkable. And then that last 20 minutes, I mean, that was theatre. The record of Warner against Broad 2019, 7 for 35, he had him on toast, but I just saw Warner there. Warner against the ball that doesn't move laterally is a different cat.
It didn't move, did it?
And David Warner on this kind of surface, when the ball's not moving laterally, the clouds arrive tomorrow, it might swing, you never know, but if it goes gun barrel, and the next few weeks it goes gun barrel, get ready, because Warner will have some fun.
Yeah. Jason Gillespie, welcome to Bazball. You never know what's going to happen next, I'll tell you.
Absolutely, and I'll be honest, I knew there's history of Stokesy declaring and having a little dart, but I must admit I didn't expect it tonight. I just thought Joe Root's 118 is flying. He's England's greatest ever, as Michael suggested there. He could have been 150, 160 not out.
And that's the point. So while we loved it and revelled in it and were excited by it, ultimately, is it the right decision?
Yeah, well, time will tell, won't it? But if it goes back to the ethos, though, it's what are we here for? We're here to entertain the fans. We're here to put butts on seats. You could argue it's the right decision for the game of cricket.
They're here to win the Ashes.
Yeah, I wouldn't have done it. I'd have got as many runs as I possibly could in the first innings with Joe Root hitting the ball to all parts. England could have got potentially another 20, 30, you don't know. Joe might have arrived tomorrow. Take Australia out there for another 20, 30 minutes, get to 450. Clouds arrive. You just don't know what tomorrow's going to bring. So I wouldn't have done it, but I'm with Diz. This England team are trying to send a message that no other captain, I don't think, in the history of Test cricket has ever done. Yeah. And it is purely about entertaining people. And you can't tell me that those last 20 minutes were not great entertainment. I think half the Hollies stand were on their feet.
Yes, it was. It was absolutely brilliant.
Yeah, and I applaud England for that. And I applaud Ben Stokes. You look at right at the start of the day, we're all there. What's going to happen? The first ball, we go back to the last Ashes series. Mitchell Starc to Rory Burns. Bosh, straight away the Aussies on top.
Yeah.
Well, I reckon that's the first time in my lifetime that England went with the first punch. You look at Slater back in the day. Jim was talking about it pre-match today. Slater against De Freitas in Brisbane. I think Slater against Goffey here. Harmy in Brisbane. Stark. We've never had a punch. And Crawley gave us that first punch.
Yeah.
So good on him. Yeah. Good on England. They're having a right good go. Brilliant to watch. But I, as a captain, I would have liked to get a few more runs. While ever Joe Root's out there, what a few more runs.
Yeah. It's breathtaking, isn't it? And actually, what's interesting of this, the last comment on the last 20 minutes, you can see how it affects the batsmen too. I mean, singles. Oh no, get back! Diving into the crease. I mean, they were all jittery out there, weren't they?
Had a bit of everything, didn't it?
Yeah.
Just genuinely had everything, and you could tell Warner wanted to get down the other end. Uzi was almost as if saying, "No, mate, I'm happy for you to stay there. Yeah. No dramas." There was, again, as Michael said, the theatre. It was just what it was all about. Everyone was standing up. That was quite extraordinary. Yeah. Seeing everyone stand up, just anticipating what is going to happen.
But I said to Dizzy on commentary on the television, it's only the Ashes that does that. Yeah, it really is. It's only England versus Australia.
This is different.
If that had been England, and I'm not disrespecting the other teams, England India, England versus South Africa, you don't get that energy from the crowd. You get noise but you just felt for those last 20 minutes, even though England didn't get the wicket, it just created what the Ashes is all about. It's just more pressure.
Yeah.
There's more anxiety. Stuart Broad bowling a big no ball. You don't see that often.
No.
Usman Khawaja and David Warner, experienced pros. They look like kids running between the wickets, diving in to try and, make sure that they're at the right end. I mean, it was great drama.
Why didn't Jimmy take the new ball?
I think they wanted Broad against Warner, and I honestly think they feel that Ollie Robinson, if you look at Robinson's record, average of 21, what he did to Australia back in Australia with the Kookaburra, Jimmy Anderson, legend, the greatest. Stuart Broad, brilliant. You want him against Warner, and I think Ben Stokes sees Ollie Robinson as his almost number one.
Yeah.
I honestly think that
It's a big call, isn't it?
Very, very big call.
Yeah.
Jimmy Anderson tomorrow morning, he might start, but I think for that moment he wanted Broad against Warner, obviously, and he probably thought Anderson or Robinson. I think Robinson's more likely to just get a little bit more bounce, higher, bigger release. He probably saw Josh Hazlewood today, similar kind of bowler, got the odd one to bounce, and he fancied Ollie Robinson, particularly against Khawaja, with that one that goes away.
And Michael, do you subscribe to the theory that the Duke ball starts to swing more consistently after a period of time?
Yeah.
Is that something that maybe was in the back of Ben Stokes' mind?
Yeah, I think so. I think they've got some data. I think it was Andy earlier said that this is a ball today has done less than any other day in terms of lateral movement since the records have been started to record it from 2006. But I saw a hint of swing this afternoon from Josh Hazlewood. I don't think it's going to go round corners. No. I think it's going to be a nice batting pitch. England have only batted 78 overs. They haven't taken too long to get the runs on the board. No. That's what they do. And by almost not batting a long period of time, they haven't allowed the pitch to wear. So tomorrow it'll be a fantastic pitch to have a bat on. I can only imagine Steve Smith, Marnus Labuschagne sleeping tonight thinking, we can't believe on that surface that we're getting the chance to bat on it on day two.
Yeah, that
early potentially on day two.
Two big statements of that first ball of the series. It was out there. Yes, it's Zach Crawley's zone. It's also Zach Crawley's zone for nicking off, as we know. But just to go bang and smash it to the boundary, and then of course that last 20 minutes also a statement. Hey, we're after you. We're not just going to sit back and get what we can. We're gunning for you. How significant do you think that first ball was?
I think the Aussies will forget it quite quickly, but for us I think it's a big statement. That's why Zach Crawley's been consistently picked for England, because they feel that he can create momentum. He's a good player that hits boundaries, gets on the front foot, he plays good cricket shots. I've seen him play some innings. He's been very inconsistent and play some poor shots at times, but I've also seen him play some innings against quality. At Sydney in the last Ashes series he got 80 odd.
Yes.
Played brilliantly, played proper cricket strokes, and I think the way that they've been consistent with him, he actually owes them. Zach Crawley owes England this series to be more consistent at the top of the order. And I think when you go out to open the batting against this Duke ball laggers, if you think back to 2019 and before that, 2017, 18, the ball was doing all sorts.
Yes, it was.
And there's no way you would trust to go out and play that shot 3 or 4 years ago, because you were so dubious about what the ball was going to do. Where I think they're so confident that the ball's not going to do a great deal, that if it is up there, they can just throw their hands through the ball, because they're not expecting the ball to nip too much. There's no real swing through the air, so you feel more confident as a player that the ball's not, and the pitch isn't going to do you.
Yeah.
But to do it first ball with the expectation and the noise of the crowd,
it was quite a moment. And you mentioned the pitch. Dizzy, you've been here a lot. I mean, that is quite an un-English-like test pitch, isn't it, in modern times? I mean, is this going to be what we're going to have for the whole series, I wonder? They are going to be very, very flat pitches laid out.
Well, certainly the commentary we heard from back in Australia was that McCullum and Stokes wanted surfaces like that, and they've reached out to all the test playing grounds.
Yeah.
This is the blueprint. This is what we want. This is how we're going to play. So I think this is what we're going to see.
Do you think it's right? Poor old bowlers.
Jeff used to always say, and he was right, let's wait until two teams have batted on the surface to kind of make a judgment. If Australia 340 for 2 tomorrow night, I would suggest that these pitches might get
a rethink.
I think they might have another meeting about the surfaces. But now England need to play the way that England play, which is so expansive, and to throw your hands at those length balls, you need good wickets.
Yeah. How would you describe the batting today. I mean, I don't think it was reckless. I mean, it was positive, wasn't it? I mean, it's more of a mental thing, I thought, really, a frame of mind thing, rather than a sort of physical thing.
Yeah, I think I spoke to Jon Colms. I used the term fearless as opposed to reckless.
Yes.
Because there is a point of difference, but wow, there was some very good batting. Like Joe Root will obviously get the accolades. Zach Crawley coming in at the top and playing so well, but geez, I thought Johnny Bairstow played beautifully today.
I'll talk to him in a minute. He'll be coming on in a minute.
Yeah. He was masterful today. I thought the way he came out, and there was the LB shout the first ball. I thought him and Joe Root, they were busy. They didn't go into their shell, and I thought it was an excellent knock.
Yeah. Are you, as a coach, looking at this and thinking about your own team and what you might take back with you? I mean, we've only had one day, but are you seeing things, or just in this one day, were you thinking, okay, that might be something I might just take back
certainly in
later?
South Australia, we're in a bit of an evolution of how we go about it. We talk about play with intent, trust your game, trust the work you've done, and just go out and play. Is it at the extent here? Maybe we're not in that space yet, but certainly you give players the freedom to explore their own games and trust that. And what's really important, there has to be backing at the selection table. That's the key. If the players know they're genuinely being backed in and believed,
yes,
and they've got the support from a selection point of view, then this is what we're seeing, and this is a small sample size, but this is the results you see.
The key to it is doing it over a period, so we get used to it.
Yeah.
This is the way England play. So you imagine if England hadn't been playing this kind of way for a year and a half and having so much success, and they came out and played shots like the captain did. Played a real wash outside of off stump. Moeen Ali spreads the field and tries to hit it out Birmingham. Yeah. And then Stuart Broad batting with Joe Root, who's nearing 100. He tries to launch it over the new stand. Would have been going nuts, but because we know this is the way England play, this is their DNA, this is what they're setting out to do, you can't criticise them too much. This is the whole remit in that England dressing room is to play in this fashion. If it goes wrong and England lose heavily, well, of course, there will be the fingers that will get pointed that maybe you can't just play one way. There are times where you just have to change the way you're playing, and yes, play expansively, but there's now and again that you have to go, okay, the expansive way we've played has got us to so far. Do we just need to just rein it in somewhat because we've got the opposition on the back foot, the field is spread, and do we need to take so many risks? Today they took the risk. They've got a decent number on the board. Will it be a good enough number is the question on this kind of surface against Australia.
I can see a familiar figure down there with headphones on, clutching a yellow microphone. He can't see me, but I can see him. Johnny Bairstow. Well played today, Johnny.
Thanks, Agus.
Feel good?
Yeah, it felt amazing to be back out there, to be honest with you. It's obviously a huge occasion to be part and parcel of the Ashes. And look, I think that there's obviously been a few conversations around the Ashes and how we'll play and everything like that. But to start the day like we did, and Zach hit that for four like an absolute gunshot going off, was definitely set the tone. Slightly different to last time we played Australia.
Yeah, well, of course. I'd love to know what the reaction in the dressing room was when that ball crashed into the boundary first ball. What did you do?
I think it was more of just a wow, to be honest with you. We heard it. Some people won't have seen it, or they might have been getting changed from the anthems. But it was more just a wow, like that's rocketed to the boundary. So, look, I'm delighted for Zach. He's played lovely there today. To set the tone like he did and go out and play and hold his composure like he did against an attack like Australia is a huge credit to him.
And when you went out to bat, Johnny, was it like sort of setting the clock back a year? I mean, you came out, you're bristling, you're ready to go, you got a big crowd egging you on after your heroics here last year. Was it like being transported back in time?
There was a few nerves knocking about, obviously. It's completely different to obviously playing county cricket and everything else. And what an occasion! It's it's one of those where you just want to be in the arena. You want to be out there. You want to be taking part. You want to be able to have an influence on a game and how it turns out. And it's exactly that this whole group want to be a part of. We want to go out and we want to put bums on seats. We've said it about inspiring the next group. We want to make people smile within the ground, and I think people leaving here today will definitely have had a fantastic day at Edgbaston, day one of the Ashes, and they'll go home and hopefully come again if there's any tickets left.
That's for sure. Was there a conversation at tea when you and Root you put on 60 odd together? You came out very positively afterwards. Was that the intention there?
We didn't actually speak at tea, to be honest with you. It wasn't necessarily a conversation that had taken place or anything like that. It was a case of, look, see the ball, and if it's there, keep giving it a crack. And it's amazing when you put people under pressure, and we've spoken about it for quite a while about how to switch pressure back onto the opposition. They're allowed to bowl well. Sometimes you'll nick the ball, sometimes you'll miss it, and sometimes you'll make mistakes when you're wanting to play in a certain way. But if you're in a confident frame of mind, if your positions are in a good, positive spot, then it's amazing how sometimes it goes your way rather than if you go half-hearted, then it can very quickly just nestle into one of the fielder's hands.
Yeah. I must ask you about the declaration. I mean, was that a spur of the moment thing? When did you first start feeling that Stokes was going to do that?
I've got no idea. You'll have to ask him. Just got told.
Were you surprised?
To be honest with you, it's never nice to just face 20 minutes. Those that have opened, whether it be, in any form of cricket, longer than a one-day game, I think that the pressure that you can build within those 20 minutes, and whether it's a slightly tentative defence or whether it's a big exuberant shot that potentially gets a nick, I think that you've got to sometimes take that punt because it's quite a niggly little period of time. So, no, it didn't really surprise me because when you've got two highly skilled and class bowlers in Brody and Ollie taking the new ball, it's going to bring in chances.
Johnny, lovely to talk to you. Well played today. A really lovely 78. Thank you. Good luck tomorrow.
Thanks, Huggers.
There we
Good
go.
evening.
Johnny Bairstow, who batted really well today, 78. I mean, he's had that horrible leg injury. There's certainly no sign of that. What seems to be the situation is that there isn't much conversation goes on down in the dressing room. Things have sort of happened by the sound of it.
Yeah, but I've noticed this England side that every time you ask about a conversation, they always say they haven't had a conversation, whereas I'm pretty sure that there are conversations that go in. But you could tell today with Johnny Bairstow, I think he was on about 12. And he played his shot and he went to the boundary, and those eyes,
yes,
the Bairstow eyes came out, and he gave Joe Root a real fist pump.
Yeah.
It was it was an aggressive one. I thought, he's on it. He's in the zone, and once he started to go and started to hit the boundaries, I guess there's the old cynics would be saying, calm down, Johnny, you've done enough, you've spread the field, but not Johnny Bairstow. You want him to keep going because an hour or so more of Johnny Bairstow, he gets you 50, 60 more runs, and that can be the difference. I think Australia in that dressing room now, they'll know that they've got 379 runs to catch up to England in the first innings of the Test match. But on the pitch that they've seen and the way that the ball's acted today, with that quality that they have, particularly at number 3 and number 4, Travis said you've got your number 1, 2, 3 in the world batting at 3, 4 and 5 on a pitch like that. If one of them, if not two of them, doesn't do what Joe Root did today, I would be surprised. I would think that both of those two at 3 and 4 are looking at this pitch and thinking, let me get on it.
Full of runs, yeah. Let's mention Nathan Lyon here. 29 overs he bowled. He took 4 for 149, so they scored easily enough off him. But he did take those 4 wickets, and he's been speaking to Alison Mitchell.
Well, an eventful opening day of this match. Nathan, 4 wickets for yourself. Did you expect, first of all, that you would bowl so many overs on the opening day of a Test in England?
Definitely not here at Edgbaston. We've been here a couple of times and they've been a little bit different wickets. But all in all, pretty exciting day of Test cricket. It's great to be back here playing for the Ashes again. It's a pinnacle for Australian Test cricket to play Ashes, especially away from home.
I'll start with the declaration. Were you expecting that in any way? Were you surprised?
No, definitely not surprised. That's the brand of cricket that they've been playing over the last couple of years under Baz and Stokesy, so definitely not surprised. But to be honest, we're just worrying about controlling what we can control, and that's playing the brand of cricket that we want to play and doing our skills to our best possibility.
You obviously had to bowl a lot of overs. We didn't see much from Cameron Green. Is he fully fit? Was it tactical?
He's fully fit. We've obviously got 6 Test matches, obviously with the final last week inside 7 weeks, so it's a big workload. So he's fully fit, ready to go. So it's a question for the skipper.
And how did bowling plans have to adapt given the very minimal, if any, lateral movement out there for the quicks?
Yeah, it's different, but we've obviously paid a lot of attention to the way England's going around and the way they're playing, the brand of cricket they're playing, but it's exciting to be a part of. It's a different challenge for us bowlers, but that's what we want. That's what we want and that's what we love. So credit to Joe Root today. I thought he batted outstandingly well, but all in all, I'm pretty happy with the way we bowled as well.
Yeah, I was going to say, what's the overall feeling, given that when you got Brooks and Stokes in quick succession, there could have been a real opportunity at that point?
Oh, you look at their squad. They got superstars all the way down through their batting innings. So we understand it's going to be hard work. We respect the way they go about it. So all in all, pretty happy. It's going to be obviously a big couple of days, a big day tomorrow, and then we'll see how we go. But it's more important that we just stick to our strengths and play the brand of cricket that we want to play.
At the very start of the day, it seemed as if the fields went defensive a little early on. What was the mindset at the start, given the way you know that England like to bat?
Oh, to be honest with you, it's just looking at the way they go about their scoring runs and playing the shots that they play. And obviously we respect each and every one of those batters. They've got a lot of skill, and it's more about us just controlling what we can control, and we can put our fielders wherever we want, so it's just part of the game and a little bit of cat and mouse, isn't it?
Does it feel like there's a stack of runs on here for your team to score tomorrow?
Who knows? It's a game of cricket. I know our guys will be preparing and having their clear plans to go out there. But saying that, they've got a world-class bowling attack, don't they? So we need to play each ball in respect, do the basics really well, and if we do that, hopefully our batters can score some partnership runs.
Well bowled, Nathan. See you tomorrow.
Too easy. Thank you.
Nathan Lyon in an uncharacteristically generous mood there, bigging up England's cricketers. And often hear that. But there was that point, 176 for 5, when Stokes was out, that they had an opportunity, I think. But 393 for 8 declared. And then Australia finishing on 14 for no wicket at the end in that amazing 20 minutes of theatre. Stephen Finn's alongside me. He's working on 5 Live all day. Did you enjoy that last 20 minutes?
It was fascinating, wasn't it? I think everyone was gripped to it. Everyone in the ground. There wasn't an empty seat. The Barmy Army were up and about. The Holly stand were behind the bowlers. And it's that atmosphere when you're bowling here at Edgbaston especially, that it just carries you to the crease. Stuart Broad bowled a no ball, second ball of the innings, because that would have just been carrying him in so quick, and it's actually hard sometimes to retain your focus as a bowler in those situations. But I think it was aggressive captaincy, but certainly that last 20 minutes was captivating.
Do you think it's the right thing to have done?
You know what, the old school Stephen Finn would have sat there thinking, he just pulled the bowlers out for 20 minutes unnecessarily when we could have scored runs in the first innings. But I think on the flip side of that, you look at the pressure that would have put on David Warner to go out there and face 5 overs in that situation with the crowd behind him, and Stuart Broad coming round the wicket, and all those mental scars from the last Ashes series in 2019. There were nearly 3 run-outs in the first over because of the pressure and the theatre of it all. And I think that it was fascinating, and I like the aggressive style of play. And actually today there were a number of times with the field spread early on and in those final 5 overs where the Australians looked a little bit frazzled and rattled. And I think that's a great sign for England on the first day of an Ashes series.
Andy Zoltzman's been on duty all day, as excited as the rest of us. What have you got for us, Andy?
Absolutely gripping. That declaration after 78 overs was the earliest a captain has declared in the opening innings of an Ashes test. Previously that record has stood since 1937, so once again we're seeing this team do things that we're just not used to seeing. Part of the context when we talked about who's on top here, we saw less lateral movement than we've seen in the first 80 overs of the opening innings of a test in England since the database that carries this information began in 2006. So in terms of lateral movement, very little, a little bit of inconsistent bounce, but it has been a good batting day. Joe Root had failed to convert his last 12 half-centuries against Australia into 3 figures. This was his first Ashes 100 since the 4th test of the 2015 series, but he's now converted 13 of his last 22 against all teams since the start of 2021. Throughout his career, had a fairly low conversion rate, but that is something that he has rectified during these golden years that he has enjoyed. And we talked about how England's cricket makes other teams do strange things, and Australia went very defensive early on, and that enabled England to score a lot of singles. They scored more singles in the first 40 overs of a test innings than any team in test history. That's first innings batting first, and played fewer dot balls in that time. So we've not necessarily for that first half of the day seen the sort of gung-ho boundary slugging that we've seen so often, but ruthless accumulation. But then those wickets kept Australia in it. Scott Boland went for over a run, a ball he'd never gone for more than 3.7 and over in his test career before. Nathan Lyon's last over went for 20, his joint most expensive over ever. Pat Cummins went wicketless in the first innings of a test for only the second time in the last 33 games. A curious day for Australia's bowlers, but they've ended the day in quite a good position, I think.
Yeah, where do you think the balance lies, Steve?
I
Runs
think
on the board, or
I think there was enough. There was actually a bit of variable bounce. The ball that Zach Crawley got went flying past and caught his thumb on the way through, and there were a few that scuttled through from the pavilion end as we sit here looking down the wicket now. So I like having runs on the board on a dry type of wicket like that. The only thing that I do think is that Australia come tomorrow determined, and they get in and they get through that period of the new ball where it might just have that little bit of movement. I think if they get in, we could see a really dogged Australia.